Lifeboat Live.
You know what that means, right?
Number one.
Yeah. Welcome to the Lifeboat. I will be your host of the evening. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. And on the other side of the glass, my partner Mark Wages has been pulling double duty. He's been over there on Wages World, and he has been explaining things that I'm just not smart enough to understand. He does a tremendous job at making it so that you really can't understand what the guy says, which is remarkable because I was so bad at any of that in school. I mean, honestly, you talk about just not something that I had a grasp on. There were very few things in this world that made me feel a little bit less than intelligent than anything science related or space related. It was just, hey, Space Giggles, good to see you, my brother. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. So let me make sure I got myself muted, because what we're going to do tonight is we're going to play a little catch up. Yeah, we're going to play a little catch up, and I'll tell you why. Because the hold on one sec. Okay, the only reason we're playing a little catch up is because the last show that I did last show Mark and I did. It wasn't particularly cheery, right? I mean, there was some heavy stuff, and I don't feel like we left on a very good note, right? We talked about some individuals who scared us a bit. You know, you get some comments. Mark Wages, Mark, I'll tell you what. If you end up popping over there, I'll put my headset in. But if there's anybody that deserve a little time off, brother, you do not have to feel like you got to pop in the back office. I know that you have been working nonstop. People, I don't know if you have an appreciation for just how much my bobbleheaded partner does. Whether it's over here on the Lifeboat or whether it's what he does on Wages World, the amount of prep work that Mark has to do in order to make this fly is absolutely incredible. It really is. You know, the homework involved. He's got to do a ton of research. He's got to do a ton of typing. He's got to do a ton of just about everything. And then he's got to do, on top of that, he's got to make me not look stupid. And if you don't think that's a full-time job, people, talk to Fiona. It is one of those things that, honestly, not an easy thing. Love you, brother. Blushing. Well, you should be blushing. But feel free to take the night off, Mark. I'm not expecting you to pop back in here. So earlier on in the day, what we were talking about was anxiety and stress. And it kind of got sidetracked because we were dealing with some anxiety for some reasons. You know, it's people that, when you ring up and you tell us that you're in a bad way, that's very much a big part of what we do, and we can't hold anybody accountable for that. We hold nothing against you if you ring up and say, hey man, I'm in a bad way. You know, in fact, I'm in such a bad way that I feel like hurting myself. You know what? That's legit, man. That's legit. It's something that we need to hear. If you do say that and then you disappear for 5 or 6 hours, it puts us on edge. And if that happens 1 or 2 times in one day, you start questioning why you're doing it. First of all, check this out. This was a gift from the crew. I don't know if you could see that. Can you believe that? The Doc Father. Yep. Pretty proud of that. The crew got together, I'm sure with help from Linda, my love. There is a series of shirts. I'm not going to tell you what all of them say because there's a series of them, and I will work them in, so to speak, kind of one show at a time. But let's talk about the difference between anxiety and stress. Okay, there is nobody listening to the sound of my voice that doesn't have to endure stress, and I'll be easy. Drops, good to see you. It is really, really normal to feel stress. They write a lot of books about how you can live a stress-free life, right? You can live a stress-free life. There's not going to be anything you got to deal with. No stress. Smooth, right? It's going to feel good across the entire thing. If that's the case, and you're screwing yourself, sad but true, essential, right? You're out and you're thinking about buying a car. You got the wife, the kids with you, and you look at this car and it is everything that you ever wanted, right? Everything that you ever wanted right there in that car. Like it is screaming, this thing has got my name on it. Since the time I was 16, I wanted this car, right? And it's got the gray leather interior. It's got the moon roof. It's got everything I ever wanted. And then that voice in the back of your head goes, and how exactly are you going to pay a $700 a month bill for this, right? That's what it's going to cost. Your car payment's going to be $700. And then that little voice goes, and the insurance, forget about it, right? So all of a sudden you're going to be up to X amount of dollars, and the stress starts to sink in. And you start feeling stressful. And that stress, in many cases, is going to override the emotions that say to you, gotta have that car. Gotta have that car. I want to drive this vehicle. Stress works in all kinds of other ways, right? Your boss says to you, we'd like to give you a little bit more responsibility. With that responsibility comes a little bit more pay. And you go, great. I've wanted this a long time. So, what is it I'm going to be doing? Well, we're going to give you a team of 75 people who are going to be doing research and development. And we would like you to have this project done within 3.5 months. That means from start to finish research development, you're going to have to do troubleshooting of any of the things that come up. You're also going to have to deal with a budget to make sure all of these things going, and those buttons start clicking, right? And the next thing you know, you feel stress. And that stress is there for a damned reason, right? That stress is telling you that maybe this isn't such a good idea, right? Maybe it's not such a good idea. Maybe I ought to bail on this. Or the stress says, all right, Tommy, here's what you're going to have to do. We can do this. We can pull this off. However, I'm going to have to stop doing this. I can't work out during the day, right? Those 2-hour workouts that I take, those are gone. The fact that normally I drop the kids off at school, so I get here at about 9:30. My wife's going to have to pick up the kids and drop the kids off, because if I'm going to take on this responsibility and get this larger paycheck, then I'm going to have to do, you understand where this is going? Stress motivates. Stress clarifies. Stress puts you into a position so that you can handle what's coming down the pike at you. And that's essential stuff, right? Stress is important. So when they say eliminating stress from your life, no. Eliminating stress from your life is a bad idea. Now, you would like to eliminate the negative aspects of stress in your life, right? But stress is important. Stress keeps us from making really crappy decisions. Now, if the stress tells you that what you're about to do is a bad decision and you do it anyway, now we have gone into a completely new realm. And this realm is called anxiety, right? Now we're in over our head. And anxiety is something that will affect you in a way that stress won't. Stress will make you think about things. It might make you lose a little bit of sleep, right? There's some drawbacks. But anxiety is stress that doesn't go away. So you get that job and you've got all of these things that you're supposed to take care of, right? You got this budget, you got this crew, you got this research and development, you got all of these things. And then the day ends and you go home and the wife says, hey, honey, how was work? And all you hear is blah, 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 because in your head, the anxiety of whether or not you're going to be able to get this done is taking over your life. And your wife says, you put the kids to bed, and your son says, hey, can you read me a bedtime story? And in your head, you're thinking, all I can think about is the anxiety in my life, and it's overwhelming, and my heart is racing, even though I'm not there, right? The things that are stressing me out are 30 miles away at my office, yet I've got heart palpitations, right? I'm sweating. I'm not sleeping right. Your significant other says, hey, in the mood? And you say, no, I'm not. And it starts to interfere with every single aspect of your life. Intimacy with your partner, right? The relationship you have with your kids. Anxiety is stress gone off the rails. And it's a fine line that we have to walk between what is good and what isn't, right? Stress is not a bad thing. It gets a bad name. Why? Because it sells books. I promise you. I come out with a book tomorrow, right? I put the hat on and I say, I can show you how to eliminate stress from your life in 5 easy steps. The book is going to sell. Am I really going to be helping people? Hell no. Hell no, I'm not. And I'll tell you why. Because stress is damned essential, right? We don't perform without stress. We don't make good decisions without stress. All of these things are part of life. They're normal. It's when they slide over into anxiety that they become an issue. Now, for those of us who are not normal, what happens when that stress starts to get climbing up to that level where all of a sudden it's no longer just normal stress, but it's starting to feel like anxiety. Well, then the normal person goes into coping skills. What do? They might make a list. They might sit down and say, okay, what are the things that are stressing me out? Bob at work isn't getting the job done. I'm going to need to talk to him. I need to speak to my boss because truthfully, the budget that they have is too small. So I'm having to scrimp here and there, and that's getting me no closer to the finishing of the project. And you make this list and you start addressing all of the things that are causing this stuff to become stress. Or you pick up a pipe, right? You pick up a needle, you pick up a bottle, and you make that anxiety go away, right? Couple of drinks. And all of a sudden, sobriety, that anxiety's gone. And now you start feeling laid back and you think, this is way better. This is way better. When I get to work tomorrow, I'm going to be able to attack this because right now I feel like $1 million and I know I can do this because that stress isn't bothering me, man. Now I feel good. There's no anxiety. And in the morning you wake up, right? Bit of a hangover, right? Head hurts a little bit. You go down, you have breakfast, you get in the car, and what happens? What happens, just like in every other aspect of our life, is the issue that we wrapped in chemicals is no longer wrapped in chemicals. Follow me? The problem didn't go away. That's not what booze does. That's not what heroin does. That's not what cocaine does. It wraps the problem so that we can't see it and we don't feel like we have to deal with it. Unfortunately, as we sober up and all of that stuff comes off, the problem is still there. Quite often exacerbated because we didn't really do anything about it. So as it was covered, maybe it grew a little bit, right? Maybe it grew a little bit. So now you're in the car on the way to the office and that stress is starting to sink in. Man, when I get there, I got to sit down with the project manager and he's going to crap all over me because I didn't get this, and this done. I'm behind. And the reason that I'm behind is, and you start doing this one, right? You're honestly starting to get the stress is starting to become an issue. So what do? Well, you could sit down, you could make a list, you could talk to your boss and go, Ralph, let me tell you what's going on, right? I think that there's a way that we can work on this. Unfortunately, that's what normal people do. People like us, what do? We go, listen, I'm going to be back in about 15 minutes. Got some heartburn, some indigestion. I'm just going to stop by the store. And what you get is a half pint. Not enough booze to really get you liquored. It's not going to be enough to get you smashed, but it's just going to be enough to cover up that anxiety, right? And that stress. And this becomes a habit, right? And it becomes something that is ingrained. So it doesn't matter what the anxiety is. We just learned that you can turn that anxiety off with a pill, a poke, right? A snort, a smoke, a big drink, whatever the case may be. Our coping skill becomes drugs or alcohol. And how well does that turn out, people? You want me to answer that question for you? It's late night, right? It turns out shitty. Throw that one out there. I don't normally curse, but we're late night and it's our second show. It turns out really crappy, people. It doesn't work out well, right? It does not work out well. In fact, without fail, when you sober up, the problems are not only still there, they're bigger. And then the bigger problems feel like they cause more stress and more anxiety and the pain is worse. So what do? You do a little more dope. This begins to permeate into every single aspect of your life. Even the smallest, stupidest stuff in the world, right? The stuff that should be so insignificant. So your son comes home and he's 8 years old and he says, Dad, they made me a pitcher in T-ball. I'm going to get to throw the ball. And you go, no way, when's your first game? Saturday. And you go to the game and you sit in the stands. And as your son is pitching, you feel like your entire life is going to end. He's alone, standing out there on that mound, and there's not a thing you can do about it. I've told this story before. I drove to California, addicted to heroin. And I had my first wife in the car with me, and I was bringing my son, who was going to be competing in a regional competition for karate. And I got there and they were calling the kids out one at a time. And they were going through, the first part was called kata. And if you're familiar with this They do these dances and these moves. There's nobody that they're fighting. This is just it almost looks like dance, but they're going through the particular moves and strikes and doing it in such a way so that they're graded on technique. And my heart was right here, right? I mean, I was a professional athlete. I knew what it was like to go out and compete. And I never stressed out. I really didn't. Not before competitions, nothing. I don't care how big the crowd was, no big deal. I was just going to go do what I had to do. But now it was my son. And he was doing the kata, and I was gripping my poor wife's hand. I'm sure I broke bones, right? Because I was crunching her hand because I was looking at this and it was killing me. There was nothing I could do to help my son, and I didn't have any coping skills, and I wanted to leave the building, but as a dad, you can't do that. And he won, right? He won this kata competition, and they gave him this trophy, and I thought, oh my God, my life is complete, right? I went from the lowest to the highest. Instantly, I was like, that's my kid, right? That was my boy right there. The green one, that's mine. That's my kid. And then an hour later, they did the next phase of the competition, which was striking. And now they took my little boy and they put him against another little boy who, of course, and every father or mother can tell you this story. He came out, and the boy that he was fighting had a beard, right? Looked like he might be in college. I mean, the boy just looked so much bigger than my son. My son was like 12, and this boy that I was looking at across from him looked like he was, 35, 36. I mean, he was just huge, and I thought, this guy's going to kill my son. And they're actually striking one another. Like, this person is going to kill my son. And I remember my wife taking out a bag of Valium, right, in a plastic baggie, and saying, how many of these do you want, right? And I was like, all of them, right? Give me like 6 of them. And I'm literally chewing Valium in the stands. Crunch, 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 crunch. To make a long story short, the boy beat my son, and it was over. I went down and I said, Calhoun, that kid was twice as big as you were. This is your first competition. I said everything a father should. I said, and you won the kata. You got a trophy to bring home. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. And then I proceeded to go rear-end a car in traffic within about 2 miles. Why? Because I was wasted. Because I was on Valium, and I was on heroin, and I was on all of these things, and I just went and ran into the car in front of me. And then the car behind me did the same thing. And on the bright side, I wasn't drinking because they would have smelled it on me, but I was wasted. And for my son, when he looks back on that tournament, he remembers the car wreck as much as he remembers the tournament. I was a bad dad, You could say that in 100 ways, and you can try to talk yourself out of that, and you can, sugarcoat it, and you can do all that. I was a bad father. And like I say, this starts to permeate every aspect of your life. So when stress starts to become something that is more than stress, right? Then you very quickly need to develop a set of coping skills. And this isn't easy, right? They write books on this crap. In fact, they're very, very popular books, right? How do you overcome stress? And they give you all these cool ways. You can meditate. You can do yoga. The simplest way in the entire world, people, is when you are feeling stressed, there is a part of your brain that is running the show. It's the emotional part of your brain. It's the reactive part of your brain, right? You're feeling stressed out, right? You're feeling overwhelmed. Does that say something? Right? It's coming from the part of your brain that does feeling, not part of the brain that does thinking. So one of the reasons that we encourage in a lifeboat so much is, if you start feeling weird, what do we ask you to do? We ask you to talk about it, right? Tell somebody. You got to say, hey, I'm feeling really weirded out, and I'll tell you why. Or, I'm feeling really weirded out, and I don't know why, right? And the person you're talking to is going to ask you some questions. They don't need to know the answers. They just need to know the questions. Tommy, what's stressing you out? I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't. Okay, well, what's going on? Well, my kid's going to this karate thing. Has he gone to one before? No. Well, then you're stressed out. Your kid's going to go somewhere and somebody might kick at him, punch at him, right? Of course you're stressed out. The question becomes, what can you do about it? Is there anything you can do to help your kid? Right? Have you gone over the katas with him? Is that something that you're involved in? Can you jump out of the stands, run down there and kick the crap out of the 12-year-old kid and then maybe go after his father? Okay, well, that's probably not realistic, right? That's probably not in the cards. So you have to start thinking about ways that you can cope. And the easiest way to do it, people, is to get it from the part of your brain that feels into the part of your brain that thinks. Now, we beat the piss out of stuff like write this stuff down, journal, right? Journal at night, journal in the morning. Get everything that is in your brain onto a piece of paper, right? This isn't busy work. This isn't stuff that we tell you so that it sounds like the captains on the lifeboat have got some advice they can give you. They read it in a magazine and they want to sound smart. No, we're asking you to shift the part of your brain that feels to the part of your brain that thinks. Does that make sense? Can I get a nod? Can someone nod for me? Huh? Get one of these? Okay. When you start to engage the thinking part of your brain, then really, really good things can happen, right? We can calm down, right? We have now the ability to put things into perspective. Do you understand what I mean by this? We run worst case, best case scenarios because we don't do this. When it's in the emotion part of your brain, you get the worst case scenario. I'm going to go down there. My son's going to lose this tournament and the kid's going to break his leg. He'll be lucky if he doesn't get a concussion. By the time this guy's done with him, he may never walk again, right? This is the kind of crap that goes through because there's no logic going on, right? It's just emotion. And he's going to be embarrassed. Right? It's going to embarrass my kid, and he's never going to be the same. This is going to leave him, honestly, feeling like he's inferior. It's going to start off his entire adult life feeling like he's not good enough. Right? Because that's what the emotional part of the brain tells you. So then you shift this stuff to the frontal lobe. You do it by writing stuff down, or you do it by talking to somebody. And if you talk to somebody and they're any good at this, one of the questions they're going to ask you is, give me the worst case scenario. Give me the worst case scenario. Start with that one. Well, the kid might get his butt kicked. The guy might break his legs, and the guy's going to go, do you really think they're going to let two 12-year-olds break each other's legs? Do you think that as long as they've been doing this, they're going to let that happen? There's going to be a referee standing there in the middle. And when the foot makes contact, they're going to go, strike! Right? They're going to put their arm out. 1 point! It's not going to be a whole lot of ass kicking. It's not going to be like watching the MMA. Simply not. Okay? So worst case scenario, your kid loses. In his first tournament, he loses. And then you got to go up to him as a father and say to him, hey, you know what? You're going to lose some things in life. And as long as you lose, but you learn, then it really wasn't much of a loss. You see, the purpose of losing is to make you better the next time. It's so that you can learn. All of a sudden, you're a dad. You go from this stressed out piece of crap who's letting stress become anxiety, and you've become a father. You're down there talking to your son about the possibility of why losing might just be the best thing that could ever happen to him. And if the person you're talking to is worth a fart, they're going to say to you, what's the best case scenario? What's the best case scenario? Well, maybe of the two different competitions, right? The striking and the kata, maybe your kid's going to do well enough in one of them to get a trophy, right? And then what happens? Then your kid's going to have this piece of hardware in his hand. And you can go down to him and say, do you see what happens? You worked hard and look what you got. Now for me, I got both sides of it. It was beautiful. I could go down and say, you worked really hard, Calhoun, and you got that, right? Of all the kids here, you won that. Because of the amount of time that you put in studying those dances and those katas, you won. It shows you that if you work hard, these things are going to happen. Now, as to the striking thing, you lost. But I took a picture with my phone. I thought you might like it. And you show them the picture and you say, see this kid? That's you. You see that kid? That's him. I would be under the assumption that maybe he's gone to a few of these, since he looks like he's 6'3" and might have a wife and kids. He's probably been doing this a little longer than you have, right? And you walk through it, and it gives you an opportunity to be a parent. What's the only difference between those two scenarios? Well, in one scenario, I'm being a shit father who's eating pills to try to get through the stress that's about to turn into anxiety. And in the other example, I got it out of here and into here. I moved it to my frontal lobe, and I talked to somebody who helped me put this stuff in perspective so that I could be a good father, right? And I'll be honest with you people, I didn't make a career of being a good father. I wish I could tell you I did, right? It's a pretty bad father, pretty awful father, you know? That's owning it. It is what it is. It's who I was. Tell you what though, I'm not that guy today. I'm not that guy today. I learned from these things. And now when my daughter calls me and she's a freshman in college and she says something about a professor that, you know, is really driving her crazy, or when she called me the other day and said, I think my professor's hitting on me, and you just want to go, well, I'll just come to California and kill him. Well, it's not an option, especially if you're a convicted bank robber and you're on, permanent probation, right? You got to get calm and you got to say, well, if that's really what you think, you need to pay close attention, because if it continues, you probably ought to report the person. See, there's something seriously wrong with teachers who hit on their 18-year-old students. And all of these things happen when you get from the emotional part of your brain to the thinking part of your brain, right? Are you going to allow stress to do what it's supposed to? Are you going to allow stress to make you a better person, right? To clarify the things in your life that need to be clarified? Or are you going to let it get into anxiety where it will cloud everything? You understand the very two differences, cut and dry. The difference between anxiety and the difference between stress is stress will clarify. Stress will focus. Stress will tell you what is important. Anxiety will allow you to think of nothing else, and it will blow very small things into the largest, most all-encompassing thing that there could possibly be in your life. Right? Got to be a difference between the two. And you got to know which one you're going to have control over. Because if you don't, they're going to eat you alive. Plain and simple. Now, that's what we were going to be talking about earlier today. Honestly, it's what I wanted to come and talk about, but I didn't. I talked about something else. And the reason is I was suffering from vicious anxiety today. And it was the kind of anxiety that unfortunately I could not turn back into stress. My bobble-headed partner and I, God bless him, he's one of the hardest working guys on the big red button. He really is. Mark is you couldn't ask for a better partner. If you gave me, a million people to choose from, I could not do better than to get Mark. He's the best. And, having Mark as a partner, I spend a decent amount of time calling him and telling him what's up. And when you call him and you say, hey, you know what? Somebody reached out to me and they said there's a good chance they're going to be dead tomorrow. And you know something, people? We get these a lot. I would love to tell you that this doesn't happen very often, but that's a lie. We get them all the time. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because these people are at the end of their rope, right? And more often than not, they don't take their own life. But we've lost some. And for that reason, you have to take every one of them as if it really is that case. And when someone says, you know what, the next time you talk to me, man, or the next time you hear from me, I'm probably going to be dead. And then you shoot back and you say, hey, man, don't talk like that, right? Reach out to me because you and I need to talk. 9 hours go by and you never hear back from that person, right? As human beings, we don't go to the best possible case scenario. If we did, we could sit down and go, you know what? Maybe that cat heard my last comment and thought, he's right. I need to go and I need to talk to someone at a psychiatrist. I need to go and talk to somebody who's a psychologist. I need to go and do something where I can work with someone to try to get this done. But is that where you go? No, it's not. You sit around and you have a vision of this person laying on the floor of their apartment dead. Unfortunately, you don't know where that apartment is. So you can't send a police officer there. You can't do any of those things. And for that reason, I wasn't very good on the last show. I really wasn't. And the last thing that I wanted to do was to end the day being negative. Let me make something really clear. I don't hold things against people. Very, very rarely. I'll be honest with you. I blocked somebody today on the lifeboat. And I don't do that very often. I really don't. Almost never. But I blocked somebody on the lifeboat today. And I blocked them because they made some disparaging remarks about the people at the top, my bobbleheaded partner and myself, and things that were just based in no fact whatsoever and were cruel. And mean people suck. Beautiful thing about having a channel like this is you don't have to put up with it. I do not send people away because they have a drug or alcohol problem. I mean, after all, we are a group of people who try to help those with drugs and alcohol problems get sober. So for that reason, we don't run those people off. But I do want to know, I do want everyone to know that we're a caring organization. And I want us to occasionally have a few laughs, right? By the way, do you see my shirt? Come on. This shirt is awesome. I'm the Doc Father. I appreciate you guys. All of the crew members that... there are 3 shirts. You guys will see them. They're absolutely fantastic. I am sad to say that I used to have a screen this big, right? And I could read every one of your comments. And then I had one here that was about the same size. And when I bought out my business partner, he took those with him. Hold on one second. We love you, Captain. Breathe. That's not a bad piece of advice. This is about how fast I talk most of the time. But yeah, breathing's not such a bad idea. But now it's very difficult to read the comments. So that becomes, something that is a bit frustrating. So bear with me. Rome and Pharma don't want you to know how simple it is to overcome addiction. To negativity, and good luck finding the best video. I saw a really hot redhead. Oh, nice. Well, nice. Always nice when there's a hot redhead involved. That's great. Lady Crispin says, we love you, Tommy. I love you too. The return of the squirrels. I'm always amazed at how I can find amazing videos on YouTube and then never, ever be able to find them again. There's a lot of that goes around. One of the things I do, and, less than half of you, somewhere around 40% of the people that watch the Lifeboat all the time are actually subscribers to the Lifeboat. And, I never understood the mindset behind that. Perhaps it's the... I like it, but I don't like it enough. I'm not gonna support them, or whatever the case may be. If by some chance you do actually take the time to hit subscribe, and then you hit the bell for notification, in theory, you'll always be able to find your way back to the Lifeboat, because every time we do a video, in theory, the big red button is going to tell you about it. Tommy, I know how that it is in my readings is struggling since my consciousness, but we got this out. Disadvantages can become our advantages. There's a lot of truth to that. One of the things that makes us unique, one of the things that makes us different than the air quotes normal people, is the fact that it's the whole mindset of if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. The number of videos that my bobbleheaded partner and I have done in the last 2 days, in the last 2 years rather, is not normal, right? We do a lot more content than other content creators. And the reason for that is we're not content creators, right? What we do is we run a group session for people who are trying to get sober. It's much like going to an NA or an AA meeting, except you have the added advantage of not having to stand up and say, hey, how you doing? I'm Tommy. I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a drug addict, and I'm living in the same town as you. And a lot of people don't like public speaking, right? So to get up in front of a group of people and tell them what's going on. What's nice about the Lifeboat is you can come here, you can talk about your problems, and none of us are ever looking at you. You know what I mean? We're not sort of checking you out. What about the Vegemite? You know what? The thing is, I love Alan Ballantyne. I really do. It's going to be so bad when I have to block him over all this Vegemite stuff. Alan is one of my favorite people. I would never block him, but he's going to be visiting me at some point, and I'm going to just work him over the coals. People, I just wanted to make sure that we came on again tonight because I did not want the last video to be the last video. It was less than cheery. It was less than happy. And the truth of the matter is, I don't ever want that to be the case. As I said, I blocked one person permanently. Some of the things that really, really wreak havoc with me is when you get people who accuse you of things that, quite simply are ridiculous, right? I'm sorry, hold on one second. Okay, sorry. You get these people that I basically was accused of. I was basically accused of being a charlatan or being a con man. That the purpose of this of what I'm doing here is so that Mark and I can get rich, and that we really don't much care about the people that we're working with. It's really about number one, trying to become famous, and number two, the fact that we're not really helping anybody anyway, and it's all about the money. And we have asked, and I will continue to ask all of you, if by some chance we have helped you out with money, if we have helped you get into to a rehab, or if we have helped you get into medical assisted treatment, or any of these things, we ask you not to tell anybody, right? And that's, I get emails from you guys that say, you know what, I really want to tell people that the purpose of what we're doing certainly isn't to get rich. And it's also certainly not so that we can say, hey, look how many people we helped. This is how we stay sober. We have found that by reaching out and helping other addicts, it helps us to stay really grounded on who we are, and it makes us spend a lot of time concentrating on what's important, right? But we're not in this to make money. With the exception of Cemetery, who I got a lot of money from Cemetery, and I'm going to continue to get a lot of money from Cemetery. But that's for a totally different reason. He buys watches from me. But for the most part, we're not. The money that we take in goes out. I'm not bragging about that. I'm really not. It's just our business model. We do what we do so that when somebody needs medical assisted treatment and they have the ability to go and get it done, but the only thing holding them up is money. The saddest concept in the world is that the window is open and that there's somebody ready to get sober, and the only thing holding them up is finance. And it's not something we're going to let happen. In order to facilitate that, we do some things like selling some memberships, and you guys donate money, and you've been amazingly generous, in doing that. The truth be told, and we've been very honest about it from the word go, we have taken money personally out of what we do at the lifeboat. That is a Yeti Blue, and for my money, quite possibly the greatest microphone in the whole world, and you guys bought that. Other than that, all of the money that has come in has been channeled back to other people. Honestly, it's the only equipment we bought. All the other equipment we bought came out of our own pocket. The microphone thing really became an issue, so we put it into. We had to have a microphone, but the rest of it goes back out, and we would like it to. We'd like to be able to continue doing what we're doing. So that person got the boot. I'm never going to be accused of something that I'm not guilty of, especially when it comes at such exact opposites. As long as you are doing good for others, so what? Drops it. That sounds great, and it really does, and it should be enough. It really should. Unfortunately, we live in a world of trolls, right? And the trolls have a field day of making things up. And you get better at not looking at them, and you get better at not paying attention to them, even if they're sending naked pictures to your 17-year-old daughter. You get better at just sort of blocking it out. But when someone who's been on a long time, just starts saying things, what they really do is that they figure out what hurts, they figure out what pushes your button, and they go out of way to push those buttons. We're amazingly proud of the amount of people who have gotten sober through the Lifeboat, and it's not Mark and I. I promise you, I'm not taking credit for that, and I know that Mark is not taking credit for that. The people who have gotten helped because of you. That's a fact. For real. I mean, you show up here and you hear a couple of guys, but when you show up here and the comment section dives on you, hi, how are you? Welcome to the Lifeboat. If there's anything ever we can do for you to help you, just reach out. Those are the comments we get. We get hundreds and hundreds of emails a week from people that just say, I cannot believe how kind all of the people on the Lifeboat are. And it's what we are most proud of. And we didn't do anything to make that happen. I promise you that's the truth. We started this thing and the right group of people just showed up. Drop says, I strive every day to help people to grow gardens and to learn. I ask for nothing. I think that's beautiful, Drops. I think that is absolutely beautiful. And, I've been hanging out a long time, Drops. I've never heard anybody say anything negative about you. Isn't that? It's got to make you feel good, but that's the truth. Never heard anybody say anything that wasn't positive about you, and I think that that's awesome. I really do. Let me make something perfectly clear. Giggling is very good for our core strength. No question. What a great comment. It is absolutely key. I used to work in IT and have extra gear. It's not brand new, but if he knows his computer specs and outputs, I could probably send a few monitors and cables to make dual screen setups. Jacob, that is such a unbelievably generous thing to say. I have a very difficult time figuring out what plugs into what. I mean, if you're new to the Lifeboat, right? If you're brand new to this, let me explain to you a little bit. I'm a convicted bank robber. Okay, I went to prison for a length of time. When I got out, I decided that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I was hoping to make sure that nobody else ended up like I did. That was the goal. And originally, sounds silly, but if you've been here long enough, you know the story. But originally, I wanted to help 6 people. We've done a whole lot better than that. We've been able to help considerably more than 6 people. It has grown bigger than we thought it was going to. But and Mark is great. Mark Wages does so much to help me out with all of that. But when you go away for 8 or 9 years in that time frame, like when the technology has just started to go, when I went away, we had the iPhone 4, and when I came back out, suffice to say, we had come a long way, a really long way, and I'm catching up. I'm making an effort to catch up. Boy, I wish I had my bigger screens. I'm really missing not being able to interact with you people as much as I normally do. I really, really do miss that. Let me see here. Do good, get good, spread the love. It's a great comment. That really is a great comment. Okay. Talk about culture shock. Yeah, there's a lot to that, right? That is absolute. Oh, and then, yes, I get a fat finger joke too. I'm also challenged with the size of my fingers, which makes it so that anytime I try to touch anything, there's an excellent chance I'm going to block somebody. It's just never my goal. I just wanted to come back on tonight, and I wanted to tell everybody that if the earlier show came out negative, the last thing in the world I want to do is end on a negative broadcast. Really. And I hope that if this is the first time you've ever seen the boat, go and look at some of the other videos, because this is quite impromptu, and this was just me wanting to make sure that we left everybody on a good feeling, on a happy note. And I wanted to show off my my Doc Father, because I think it is a very, very cool shirt. Come on, when's the last time you saw someone wearing a shirt that said Doc Father? I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm the first, which is good because I'm probably the only first Doc Father. Yeah, you may have been locked up in prison, but ask me this: you don't have to be in jail to be in prison, and that's such a great comment. It really is. I've done shows, and I've talked about this before. That one of the things I realized most when I got out of prison is that the vast majority of people who are free have absolutely no appreciation for the fact that they're free. Right? Freedom is wasted on the free. And once you've had your freedoms taken away from you, it really will change how you view the world. And the small things in life that people take for granted, like feeling rain on your face, right, or seeing the sun come up, or any of those things that are just it's just another sunrise. If you've been locked up, there's no such thing as just another sunrise, right? There really isn't. And unfortunately, there are so many people in this country and in this world who build a prison that for themselves, a prison that they can't get out of, and that prison is made of powder, or it's made of liquid, or it's made of pills, or whatever the case may be. And there is not much sadder than seeing people who are in prisons of their own choosing. It is such a sad affliction that we have going on currently, and there is really a need right now for what we do. Unlike, I think, a lot of other channels, there is nothing that would make me happier in the world than if 500 other channels started to do exactly what we did. If you got locked up, job availability is limited. That needs to change. Job availability is nil. I mean, honestly, and I'm not complaining, because I'm blessed that job availability was nothing, because it forced me to start my own business, and that business has become very successful. And I'm not bragging, but it has enabled me to do what I do now, and it's just a really beautiful thing. Freedom from Woodstock '69 was off the charts. Claim your freedom and become sovereign. Okay then. Exactly. Be your own boss. Well, you know what? Not everybody can. At least not in the beginning. Although there's a great expression. You can dig a ditch. It's a lot different if you own the shovel, right? You don't have to have you don't have to have a PhD, and you don't have to start Microsoft to have your own business. It's just being the person where the buck stops, right? The buck stops with me, which means that the paycheck also stops with me. And I've been really blessed, and I know that I've been blessed, and in so many more ways than one. Not just at work, but with with what's going on, here on the lifeboat. I could not be any happier. I couldn't be any happier doing what I'm doing. I am so proud of. I'm so proud of all of the people who are getting sober. All of the people who come here and say, I got 30 days of sobriety, or I got 60 days of sobriety, or I got 3 days of sobriety. To me, that's the high. Just keeping it real. I've tried everything. I've tried everything, and I've tried every way you could do it, right? Smoking it, shooting it, snorting it, sticking it in the vein, right? Any way that you can get high on any drug known to man, I've done it. And the best buzz I have ever felt is when somebody says, I'm sober, and I don't think I would have done it without the lifeboat. I'm not kidding you. That's a high like nothing else that I can explain. It's the reason that we do this. It's the reason we work a full-time job on top of a full-time job, right? I was trying to say that if you have been in prison, your job opportunities are less. Forgiveness needs to be better. I agree with you, Drops. The job opportunities are really, really limited. There are the list of jobs that you can't work if you've ever been to prison is remarkable. And sadly, we live in a society where once your debt to society is paid, your debt to society is not paid. Right? You get out and they say stuff like, "Well, you can't work here. You can't live here." Believe it or not, right? There are apartment complexes that first thing they'll ask you is, "Have you been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years?" We don't allow those people to live here, and we're the most we really are the most oppressed minority in the world, and there are some easy, really examples of this. If I brought up any other minority, and I say minority because there are less people that have been to federal prison than anybody else in the country. You take any minority, and none of them are at 180,000, right? That's a really small minority. But if you begin to talk about people that have been to prison, and you say, "Well, so and so just got 8 years and he's getting put away," what do they say? "Hey, don't drop the soap," right? Hope he gets a big cellmate named Bubba, who likes little boys, right? Or a big cellmate named Bubba that is looking for a boyfriend or a bitch. These are jokes you hear all the time. Pick any other culture in the world and joke about someone getting raped and watch what happens to you. I don't care what it is. Pick any other culture or any other minority and make a joke about them getting raped and see what happens. You will be canceled. Right? No one will laugh. No one will find it funny. But you can go on to every late night channel, and as soon as somebody starts going to prison, there's going to be 6 rape jokes before the end of the show. You know why? Because it's funny, right? Somebody does something wrong and they go to prison. Well, surely they deserve being sodomized. Sad, but that's the world we live in. And I'll tell you something. If you've ever had the misfortune of being in prison, and God, I hope you don't, and I hope it's something that no one ever has to deal with, but it doesn't happen. It's not like the movies where you think that as soon as you get to prison, every 3 minutes someone's getting raped. It doesn't happen that way. It really doesn't. It's very infrequent. But when it happens, those are screams that you'll hear in the night, and you'll know what it is. And those are things that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And in there are very few circumstances where you think, well, they got what they got coming. Right? If that person happens to have hurt a kid, well, there's not much. I can't really muster a whole lot of sympathy for someone that hurts children. But for other things, just because you broke the law doesn't mean you deserve to be raped for the next 6 years of your life. But that's the way that we treat our incarcerated. And a very famous expression was, if you want to see how civilized a country is, look at the way they treat the people they have incarcerated, and it's fairly remarkable. It really is, and and they lie to you about it. I could do 25 shows on the prison system and what it means. The reason I don't, and people ask for this all the time, could you do a couple of more prison shows? I really did everything I could to leave that there. I have a friend that helped me get sober, and I reach out to him and I stay in contact with him. And there's 1 or 2 other people in there that I thought were really, really good human beings, and I remain in contact with them. But I have no desire whatsoever to glorify anything that happened in prison. I don't have any desire at all to make it sound cool, right? To make it sound interesting. It was horrible. It was horrible. Every bit of it was absolutely horrible. And it's not something that, the platform that we have here is really designed for one thing. I would like to teach people that you do not have to live a life of slavery, right? Yeah, but I was, let me see here, but I was never wanted to go, so that my job limitations were my motivation to go to work for myself. Okay. I'm grateful for the Doc Father. Why, thank you, Linda. Linda is the purchasing agent from my company. She does a promote discouragement, right? She is the purchasing agent for Australia from my company. She helps me track down watches in other countries, which I bring over here and I fix up and I sell. My full-time job is as a watch broker. I buy and sell and repair vintage watches. And without Linda, I wouldn't have a business. She is absolutely remarkable at what she does. Lady Fiona Crispin has been just sort of the backbone of everything that I do here. She has been absolutely amazing. She's been nothing less than amazing. And I'm in love with her, which probably doesn't hurt the cause either, so that helps. Yes, Linda is awesome. It is scientifically proven that the less you drink, the better you're going to feel. There's a lot of truth to that. And it is also scientifically proven that alcohol is a poison, right? It's kind of remarkable how other things get you high, right? Hold on one second. What usually happens is something attaches to a receptor in the brain. Alcohol is different. It's a poison. And the prospect of, weeding that poison out of your body causes things to happen. He made a mistake of stealing some money from a business. Couldn't even get a retail job. Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you stole, let's say you robbed, I don't know, a dozen or more banks. And in the process, you were also caught for, say, gun running. I'm very limited in the things that I could do. I mean, I can get some laborer jobs in some places, and you know what? I would take them. I would. If that's all I had, I would take them, and I would be the best damn laborer that I could ever be. When I got out, I worked at a shipyard, right, when I was in a halfway house, and I banked every single dollar. I lived just like I was in prison. If I got a paycheck, I put away every single penny of it. And the reason is I wanted the opportunity to build something for myself. And I got enough money put aside, and I started the process of the watch business, and it has been nothing shy of amazing. I strive to be truthful and helpful every day and do no harm, and to absolutely ask for the exile of Knights of Malta in the cool calculus of reason. Captain, my captain. I've always been a big fan of the phrase "Captain, my captain," so that's always nice. We are pretty close to the top of the hour. Again, I don't do this too often. I wanted to come on and I wanted to do another show because I didn't want to leave the last one in a negative. Just didn't want it to be a negative show. I wanted to do something a little bit more uplifting. I love all of you. I really do. Even those that we may, even those that we might butt heads occasionally. For the most part, I love most of you, and even those that I don't love, I absolutely think you deserve sobriety as much as the next one, and I will always fight to make sure that happens. You don't look like a Finster baby whatsoever. Not sure if I know what a Finster baby is, but you know what? I'll take that, I think. Where's that kitty in the basket? See, now that's the right question. That's the question to ask. There was a little bit of confusion because the cat can tell when I'm not having a good night, right? So if I'm feeling a little grumpy or if I'm going off about things, sometimes Squirrel just takes off like she goes on strike. She's a very, very intelligent pussycat. If you're brand new to the show and you've never been here before, we have a mascot, right? It's the cabin cat. The cabin cat's name is Squirrel, and that's a long story, but the boat named her, and then as it turns out, when I went to adopt a cat, the cat ended up being called Squirrel, which is what the boat wanted to name her. So it seemed like it was a destiny, so to speak. So we do have a cabin cat, and it's good because when you do a live feed, if you ever watch them, you get to the end of a live feed, and you got to have something like Marfugel's genius because he says, this is not it's not a shout out, it's not a outro, it's a shoutro, right? And you've got that going, but you have to have something because if not, there's that kind kind of uncomfortable feeling where everyone's sort of like, well, I guess is the show over? I guess the kind of show is over, right? So we are lucky in that we do have a way of ending each and every show here on the Lifeboat, right? So we're going to go with this. Let me make sure that we're on here. The way that we normally do it is I say, we will be back tomorrow night. And that will be the same squirrel time, same squirrel channel, because it's not a bat, right? It's a squirrel. Same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. And then I will usually say, so I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, it's usually my partner, Captain Mark Wages. But since he's not here tonight, I will just say, I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will be back tomorrow night, people, and we will do an hour of some feel-good sobriety stuff. Please stop by, check us out, see what a normal Lifeboat show runs like, because this one was not quite normal. But I would like you to see a full one, and I think you might groove to it. I really do. So, but for all of you who popped over from Wages World, I really appreciate it. To all of the normal crew members, thanks for coming by and letting me do a happier show. You know what I mean? Because the last one was not exactly where I wanted, and I see that the squirrels are out in numbers. So I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and this is a cat in a basket. Give him one, squirrel. Good night, everybody. We love you. Thanks, squirrel. He's a good kitty. Good night.